Many people across the country today will be wishing Her Majesty a very happy 90th birthday, and these benches send our warmest greetings to add to that. May I say, Mr. Speaker, as a relatively young whippersnapper, I'm fully in favour of our country having leaders of a finer vintage. Today, we're talking about a highly respected individual who is 90. And, Mr. Speaker, whatever differing views people across this country have about the institution, the vast majority share an opinion that Her Majesty has served this country and has overwhelming support with a clear sense of public service and public duty, as the Prime Minister just indicated. She's carried out that duty with enormous warmth. My dear friend Mildred Gordon, the former member for Bowen Poplar, who recently died aged 92 and whose funeral is tomorrow, met the Queen at the opening of the Docklands Light Railway. The Queen asked Mildred how she was getting on as a newly elected MP. And Mildred replied with the devastating honesty she replied to everything. She said she felt she had very little power to help her constituents. So the Queen took her on one side and, with her customary wit, said, "Once they find out you lot can't help them, they all write to me." Her Majesty was born less than a month before the general strike. The first daughter, who would later and unexpectedly become heir to the throne, was born 2 years, as the Prime Minister pointed out, before all women in Britain got the vote. Her childhood was during the mass poverty and the long slump of the 1930s, her teenage years through the brutal carnage of the Second World War, and at war's end she experienced firsthand the joy of people as the young princess walked through the streets of London. A very moving oral history that I'm very pleased was replayed on Radio 4 this morning. Oral history of our time and our lives, indeed before the times of most of us in this House today. She became Queen at just 25 years old following the death of her father, and she's reigned for nearly 64 years, the longest reigning monarch in our history. In that time, our country has become a better and more civilised place. We've enacted equality legislation, we've ended colonialism, we've created the National Health Service, the welfare state and the Open University. And as head of the Commonwealth, she's been a defender of this incredible multicultural global institution for which we're all very grateful, the way she stood up for the Commonwealth and visited, I think, every country within the Commonwealth. And the Prime Minister was quite right to draw attention to her historic visit to Ireland in 2011 and the way she spoke in the Irish language at the reception that was held for her in Dublin during that visit. Today, Mr. Speaker, I'm welcoming two more nonagenarians from my constituency to Parliament, and both have a link with the celebration we're conducting today. Iris Monaghan and George Durack. Iris was born in what is now the Republic of Ireland, but was then part of Britain. She came to London in 1951, before the coronation, and was a Crown civil servant in the Inland Revenue. She's helped collect taxes ever since 1951, which has helped to keep us all in the state to which we're accustomed. George fought in the Second World War, serving in the 1st Battalion of the Rifle Brigade, attached to the 7th Armoured Division, and had a daily close affinity with Her Majesty throughout his working life, because he worked for the Royal Mail, delivering Her Majesty's head through letterboxes all over North London. And yesterday, Mr. Speaker, I was present at the graduation of a 91-year-old constituent who's just completed her 3rd degree, a master's no less, at Birkbeck College. It proves you're never too late to take up a new career and learn something else. It is their generation, the Queen's generation and my parents' generation, that defeated the horrors of fascism in Europe, that endured the privations of the post-war era, who built a more civilised and equal Britain. We have much to be grateful for to that generation. And on her coronation in 1953, Her Majesty was driven through Upper Street in my borough, but a crowning achievement in Islington was to come some years later. You'll enjoy this, Mr. Speaker. In 2006, she was due to open the new Emirates Stadium in my constituency, but had to pull out due to an injury. Unfortunately, Mr Speaker, this is a fate that has afflicted far too many of Arsenal's squad in subsequent years. So we must congratulate her on her prescience. My honourable friend, the member for Hornsey and Wood Green, was then the leader of Islington Council. And as the Queen could not attend the opening, they were invited to Buckingham Palace, and she accompanied the whole squad to Buckingham Palace to meet the Queen. Now, we know the Queen is absolutely above politics. She may be above football too, but many locals harbour this quiet, secret view that she's actually privately a gooner. In her reign, Mr Speaker, she's seen off 12 Prime Ministers. Whilst recently I attended my first state dinner, she's received over 100 state visits and visited, as the Prime Minister indicated, well over 100 countries on our behalf. I admire her energy, wish her well in her continuing and outstanding commitment to public life. I wish her a very happy 90th birthday.